Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of my interview series. I am here with FunnyAstro, support player for Twisted Minds. Welcome Daniel, we are here to talk about Stage 1. But before we get to Stage 1, we need to talk about the off-season, right? So what happened? Because it's not actually been a long off-season, but a lot has happened behind the scenes. So what was your journey from that sort of end of Stockholm, contract with SSG ends? What happens next?
Well, so I actually don't know how much public knowledge one of the teams that dipped out was, but essentially at the start of the off season, I don't know if you've heard of the Fabrica esports agency.
The one that Seicoe and Hadi and
yeah
signed up.
A lot of people signed up with this agency, and I decided not to because I don't like having an agent because I have poor memories from the OWL days. But I was very out of the loop. I was just sort of chilling, doing real life stuff. Haven't really played Overwatch for weeks after Stockholm. Bit mentally scarred after losing that badly. Came out of it not feeling too good. So took some weeks off and then started talking to a couple of teams. ENCE, one other one that isn't in Overwatch, and then TM and Genji, and sort of feeling things out. Had a couple of offers, and then one day they all disappeared, and I ended up on TM. I think I was always going to join TM out of the offers. I think it was just going to be the best team, but that's pretty much how it went down. It was all very quick. It was like within the span of a week, and then finding out all the teams that were meant to be partner and then weren't partner, and then teams that thought they would get it and didn't. It was a bit nuts, but
it happens in a lot of off seasons, isn't it? Where like nothing happens for a long period of time, and then there's a couple of days of everything gets locked in.
And it was right around Christmas as well, so it was just. But I was just like, I've got all these Christmas plans for family stuff and seeing people, and then it's just like, on top of that, you're getting random things happen. Like, you check your phone, oh, that team's dipped out. Guess I don't have that offer anymore.
Oh, they're not going to be joining Overwatch? This is probably affects my contract offer with them a little bit. Then, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's an interesting one, especially with the partner program. I still don't know who the third slot is, but I'm sure we're probably not allowed to talk about that.
It's it's like a known unknown, I guess. Or like, it will be known soon. I think.
Well, we think.
We think, yeah, we hope. But for you, probably actually pretty happy with the roster you ended up on. In reality, you've ended up now joining, because there was a lot of talk at the end of SSG in terms of the core breaking up and where all the different pieces would go. You've actually ended up playing with quite a few players in terms of Hadi and Seicoe from that team as well. Was that an active decision when you were going into the off-season of like, actually, there are a few players I do want to play with, or was it kind of just how the pieces fell?
I think Hadi and Seicoe are always going to be like the top of my list of players to play from in those roles in Europe. Like the absolute top. For Flex DPS, it's pretty much only Seicoe or Kev that you want it in that slot. And then Hadi is, for me, the obvious choice. I really like working with him. I think we complement each other really well in terms of what we bring to the team. I was always going to be happy to work with them again. It was a very, very happy moment when I realized that was going to be the team. And then with Quartz as well, it's just like pretty much a dream because you get bullied by him all year. Yeah. You get the opportunity to play with him. And it's just like, yes, yes, I don't need to play against Quartz anymore. I don't need to worry about just getting headshot by a Widow 20 times in a row.
Yeah, well, I think it happens in a lot of off seasons when there's a couple of players in each region who become like the magnet players. You know, wherever those players choose to go, a lot of people will want to try and get themselves on those teams to be with. Like probably like in EMEA, it's like Quartz and Kevster maybe are like the two sort of linchpin DPS that people are always drawn to. So yeah, I don't think many people will complain too much about being on the same team as Quartz. Then
you can't really complain about that.
Then one something I did wanted to get your take on, because this was maybe the most surprising part of the roster, right? Everything else sort of seems like it makes sense in terms of Hadi covers mostly all the tank roles. You've got a classic double flex DPS and hit scan DPS set up. But then you find yourself partnered with Irony, who is probably a name that a lot of people wouldn't have pictured or guessed would be on this roster. So what do you make of the Irony signing and how did it sort of come about?
Well, it was a bit of a nightmare trying to get a flex support. in Europe there aren't that many options. You've pretty much got Sky, Gala, Landon, and I think at this point when we were trying to get them, they were all signed to other teams. Canale as well. There was just like the options were very limited in Europe, so you pretty much have to get an import. I mean, for flex support anyway, you're always better off getting a Korean import because they can actually play all the heroes instead of just a couple. So we looked at a few different Korean options. I think Irony he's a really good choice. I don't know too much about him, to be honest. I wasn't the person who picked him, but I trust that the rest of the team have looked over him well. He seems like a fun guy to play with. I think that's the most important thing. Like having one Korean on the team, it's going to be so hard to fit him in to the system that he's got to be someone who's like happy and willing to work with us. And from what I've spoken to him, it seems like he is. So I'm excited to play with him.
Because you've obviously, across your career, you've actually played with a lot of Korean flex supports through Philadelphia and through Glads. What's the biggest difference really playing from, say, someone like another European flex support and playing with a Korean flex support?
Yeah, the Koreans are usually quite a lot better.
Do you find it any harder in terms of, I know, like small things communication-wise that are harder just because you don't have a native English speaker most of the time?
I think it's the only thing that I've ever struggled with playing with Koreans was like more the fight planning stage. Once you're mid-fight, all the callouts are so simple and they're usually just targets or directions, right? Like left, right, behind, or just a hero's name. That there isn't really much of a translation issue, but it's just the fight plans that are going to be hard. It's definitely going to be hard because we have a lot of different accents on our team. Have Hadi with his German accent, got Saudi accents, got my English accent. There might be another accent in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It could also be a little bit confusing. So I hope he'll adjust. I'm going to try my best. So I feel bad that he is the only Korean I can try and try and help him. It's going to be a lot of ranked duo. Just hang out outside of scrims so he can get used to the sound of our voices and the way we speak English.
Well, because they normally come in pairs inevitably. Partly because the import limit is 2, but also because a lot of the time it's nicer to
easier to
bring
have
them over in 2s because then they
definitely.
have sort of someone to lean on or someone.
It's just going to be a lot. We're going to have to put the work in, you know.
Yeah.
Learning a new language doesn't happen overnight, but hopefully throughout the year we can teach him quite a bit of English.
Is he going to be over here as well, either at the Twisted Minds facility or somewhere so he's not on
he's going to be at the TM facility in Saudi.
Okay,
so he's going to be on low ping.
We'll
be on the same schedule so we can play ranked together and whatnot. So we should be able to sort of smush him into the team somehow.
Indoctrinate him into EMEA. And then have to ask a question as well, because there was always a lot of rumors flying about additional signings, and obviously, especially in EMEA, everyone's been talking about like Korean imports and stuff. You guys still have a 7th spot open on the roster. Is there any plans to fill up this spot with either more flexibility in one of the roles or anyone else, or is there?
I think that's a secret for now.
That's a secret for now? Okay.
I think that one's going to be kept under wraps.
Yeah, until there's something locked in. Okay.
I get the feeling it's not going to be another Korean there.
Okay. Then the other part, and I think by the time we're recording this won't have been announced, but I won't release it until it's announced. But obviously, a lot of coaches coming over to EMEA. There's Krusty's coming over, Smash is coming over, Junkbuck is coming over. They're importing the whole gang, the whole Falcon squad seems to be on a flight over. But you've kept it local with your coaching, and you've chosen to go with BenBest. So was he already part of the team when you eventually signed, or at what point did Ben sort of come into the picture?
I think he was the last piece that came in. I think our team could pretty much run itself, just in terms of gameplay. We've got enough old players and people who care about strats. Even with Youbi, even if he's not playing all the time, he is a very strategic player, and he was obviously the old shot caller for TM. So he's going to have a lot of input to say about what we're doing in game. Between me, Hadi, and Seicoe, I know that we all think about the game like that a lot as well. So we would be able to manage it ourselves, but with hero bans, and then it's also just good to have a coach. Like, it's always good to have.
Exactly.
I think Ben is obviously very experienced. He's also worked with Koreans before, so he might be able to help with irony. I don't know how much, but
depends if he can understand.
It's gonna be better than if he can understand the French accent. That would be great. But yeah, I think Ben's just a solid coach. I've never heard anything bad about him. He seems like a really nice guy. He's good to work with. Europe is just a bunch of old men doing coaching at this point. We've just got everyone from like Overwatch League Season 1, right? Chris, Ben, Krusty, Junkbuck, Smash. Smash is the new guy.
The new
guy? Smash is the young kid on the block, and he's not young.
He's like mid-40s, yeah. It's like being the new guy at seniors football or something. Like.
Yeah. I think the options for coaching, like, I feel bad for anyone who's trying to get into coaching the EMEA scene, because there's so many options of like these old, really experienced coaches who everyone knows what you're getting. You're going to get someone good. You're going to get someone who knows strategy. He knows all the metas. He knows how to work with players.
Like, he knows the players as well.
Yeah.
So there's existing relationships and stuff.
Already have relationships. I'm not best mates with Ben, but I've met him a couple of times at LAN.
But it helps, doesn't it? It helps to know the people you go into a team with. Yeah. Especially like in the current age of Overwatch, where it's not all team houses and flown out to LA or anything. Like, it's actually really nice to have met the people you're working with in person beforehand.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good mix of old and new for me. Like having the old Hadi and Seicoe from last year and then bringing in fresh pieces. Ben, I've never worked with. Quartz, never worked with. Having a younger Korean flex support who is more of a rookie. I think it's always important to have someone who is a rookie on your team, so you've got that sort of freshness.
Well, you've got that kind of
willingness to grind,
You've got that kind of interesting mix between players like yourself and Hadi, who have been around multiple seasons, and then sort of newer players. Like, obviously, Quartz has still played a lot, but in terms of like, this feels like even last year, Twisted Minds were really up and down in terms of top team or not top team. Whereas this roster feels like you're basically locked in to be one of the top teams in the region every time. So with him and Irony,
I think we've got a
nice mix.
The mix might not. It might look a little bit weird when you see the players, but we've got a good mix of everything, you know? Like, we've got a good mix of old and new, good mix of flexibility. We can pretty much do everything. It's very well-rounded, I think.
Is there... I don't know if you've scrimmed much already, but is there also maybe potentially the opposite problem where, you know, you've got Seicoe, Hadi, Youbi, yourself, everyone who's got quite a lot of input or ideas about how they want to play the game? Is there potentially going to be a problem there in terms of translating that all into one vision of what we're doing or how we're playing a comp?
We've not scrimmed yet, but this is actually the only thing we've talked about so far. so we already have a plan of how we're going to manage this, because I think we know there's going to be too many ideas flying around. So we've talked about who's giving more, like who's going to get final say, who's gets stuff like that, and I think it's obviously going to be something we're going to have to work on through the year, but we're already aware that it's like, it could be a problem.
Prepared that this is going to be like,
And for myself, I'm happy taking a step back. I don't like necessarily have to be the leader in any team I'm in. I'm happy to just sit and play, to be honest, and just be there as a mechanical player or more as a shot caller. I can do both.
Yeah.
So I'll just switch as needed. I'm sure other players are the same. Everyone's been on enough teams to be able to flip that switch, I think. Like, Hadi's always going to be more of a leader. So he'll probably end up getting the final say or being the biggest voice most of the time. But I'm happy with that. He's a great leader.
He's good at it,
You can't complain. Takes more pressure off my shoulders.
Well, yeah, it probably also works in the sense that Hadi's going to play as the only tank, going to play every map and stuff. So maybe with like Youbi and Seicoe, there might be a degree of like alteration and not in for all the maps and stuff. So yeah, useful to have like. The
only question mark is irony. Voice. He might come and be the loudest, most strategic thinking flex support I've ever played with.
He might have better English than all of you. Yeah,
exactly. He might be fluent in English. And we're just like, oh. But yeah, until we scrim, there's not really a way to know some of that stuff.
The expression is theory can only take you so far, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to be aware of these problems, but you kind of have to actually just go through it to figure it out. And then I want to get your take as well, because as we've entered a new year, we've got a bunch of format changes as well coming into OWCS. So one of the things that has changed maybe most dramatically is rather than a circuit point qualification system, we're just going into you win the stage or you finish top 2 in the stage, you directly qualify to LAN, which is a lot cleaner and simpler, but obviously means the stakes, especially in a region like EMEA that is lining up as quite a competitive region, the stakes are really high. It's really hard to get those top 2 spots. So what do you make of these changes and this shift to a direct qualification?
Didn't know that was how it worked until you told me. I've not really paid attention.
First time reaction.
Stages. To be honest, it doesn't matter. Like, none of this matters. If you just play the game and you just try and win, you will usually go to LAN.
Don't worry about the numbers, the maths, the details. Just keep winning Overwatch games.
You just win. You just show up to matches and win. You never have to worry about qualifying. It's great. Yeah, I don't know how does it work with if you change your roster, because that was the one big thing about circuit points, right? It was you had an incentive to keep your roster through the year. Now I guess there's no incentive.
I think the roster might just be locked for the entire stage.
Yeah, but like between stage 2 and 3, or there's only 3. Between those stages before, you'd carry the circuit points from the stage before if you had the same roster, right?
Yeah, so top 6 from the top. So there's going to be a top 8 for your regular season. The top 6 are going to stay in the top thing for stage 2. The bottom 2 are going to play a promotion relegation game against the top of Face It Masters.
Whatever.
Yeah, and then the winner of that, they'll play like a double elim, and the top 2 from the double elim rejoin the top 6.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll do a similar thing again, where again, like you'll do a regular season.
But what happens if you change your roster? What if you're in the top 6 and you like? How many people can you change before?
I don't know if there's like a limit of like, because last year it was like there was a core of 3 players, right, or something you'd have to do to keep it. So I don't know if something like the same rules apply essentially, because especially now we've got like, I guess, more money in the region. There is always a chance that a team just goes, our team's really bad. Let's sell them all.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Let's ditch them all or something. So I presume there is probably some kind of like core roster type thing to protect against that, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, because last year there was a lot of roster mania, especially with teams such as ENTS going through about 20 different
1
people.
billion players. Yeah, just
play. Well, you're playing against ENTS, but it could have like 7,000 different people on it. I'm looking through now, and they had last year. They had like 16 people or something insane.
A healthy number. A healthy number for a 5-player game.
Yeah.
The A team, the B team, the C team. Yeah.
That's how many they went through. But yeah, as long as there's something to stop roster mania mid-season.
Yeah.
I like there being set rosters for the year. And I don't want to change roster.
Like similar to Overwatch League, essentially, where you're more or less
I think
basically
once you lock in for the year and you make your decision in the off-season, you should have to live with that.
Live and die by the
you can add 1 player here or there, but changing too much of the roster.
So you actually want more. You want everyone to be chained to their teammates for the entire year.
I think it's way more fun to watch as well, because
you get more attached to it, because you get attached to the core and
you get more rivalry. The rivalries are real, because at the start of last year we had a rivalry with ENTS. We had real passion against some of those players. Then they fucking left.
As event, there's any kind of storyline or rivalry, it stops existing. Yeah,
it just kills the story. I think this year it will be a lot more stable. Maybe there will be more rivalries. I guess there's more chance for it with only 2 teams qualifying.
It's really heated as well. One other thing I wanted to ask as well is, because you're in a direct qualification situation, one thing that happened last year during each of the stages is there'd be a patch mid-stage. And this could very much influence the results of the following double elimination bracket that followed that patch maybe a week and a half later or something. Now, there was some mitigation. Now, there would be like 2 stages, right, before a LAN. So you'd have to get really unlucky on both patches to completely mess up your chances of qualifying. But now we're in a direct qualification. There's a world where there's a patch, and then 2 weeks later, you're playing for your lives and you have to get top 2 to get to LAN or something. Is that...
How big? Live with it.
Just gonna live with it. How big a concern is that for you with your roster? I guess like patch proof, is it?
I think we should be patch proof, but we're only going to be pretty much as patch proof as SSG was last year. I think, because we have the same. We're slightly more flexible support. quite a lot more flexible on flex support, I think. Landon was great, but the option to play stuff like Anna sometimes was a little bit harder. I think, again, with Quartz, he's pretty much the same as Sparker, but can play a couple more heroes to a top level.
Yeah, I think actually, even though we've not seen really too much of it, and everyone always talks about Quartz Sojourn, Quartz Widow, Quartz Ashe, whenever he has had to flex on to like Genji or Echo or something, he's actually pretty good at it. It's just been like an underutilized thing, I think, by
exactly, because you'd obviously rather have him on hit scan when you can, for sure. Yeah, I think we should be happy with any patch, unless there's some really awkward one that really benefits another team. But then that shit will just happen. Like,
like do.
If it happens, it's just unlucky.
You can only prepare for so many.
We're going to be prepared for like 95% of the metas. If we hit the 5% for one of the tournaments, it will be a bit of a bummer. But it won't be the end of the world.
And then similar kind of theme, obviously, is hero bans are coming in full time for OWCS, which means there'll be a lot more pressure on all the players in terms of flexibility. But also, one key change is for hero bans are going to happen after roster submission. So in theory, if you sub in, say, a Winston player, that Winston player could very much be targeted by the enemy team. How do you feel about this shift from what we had at the Esports World Cup?
Again, I actually don't pay too much attention to how the systems work. I let Chris deal with that last year.
Ben's problem now.
Not my problem. As long as, I think it's an odd one. I'd rather have the players subbed in after the hero bans. But to be honest, having the players subbed in before hero bans actually benefits us this year, because we don't have. I think we're maybe thinking about getting another flex support. But with the way the system works, it kind of doesn't make sense, because people aren't going to ban Lucio if he gets subbed in. So we're going to have to tank Lucio ban somewhere else. But I mean, even then, that's less of a problem now because Juno's a hero. But for other stuff, like we've got the most flexible tank in Europe. We've got really flexible DPS. And like I say, we should be able to cover every basis on supports as well. So we should be fine. Other teams might struggle, because if you've got 2 tank players, you put in one for a dive map, you're getting Winston banned. You've got like 3 flex support players. If you put in double flex, you're getting one of the flex supports that you want to play banned. Like, it's always going to happen. So it's nice that we don't have to do these obvious subs that will instantly lead to a easy ban.
Well, even like, because it would really just be your DPS that you're.
It would only be Youbi that they can sub in.
Yeah, and then and then
he can still play all of these all of the heroes.
Just go Tracer or something.
Yeah,
exactly. Like there's still
we've got exactly the same options. It's quite hard to target ban us. I think I'm probably the easiest player to target ban on the team.
You got Juno now, mate. You've got
I'm fine.
2 heroes.
You can't have both of them. I'm the happiest man alive.
What's also true is if you're in a situation where maybe only one of your roles is target bannable, you can just protect that one. So Youbi's coming in because we want to play, say, a EMEA or a sim type comp or something. And we're protecting DPS, and you can maybe mess with some of our other pieces, but you can't mess with that piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, if you're subbing in 2 players, say you're subbing in your Anna player and your Winston player, you can only save one. Somebody else is going to have to deal with it. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll see how it plays out a lot more, and especially with the sort of like stacked rosters, stacked coaching staff across EMEA. I feel like there'll be lots of, I guess, advancements on the theory and figuring out what is possible and not possible.
I'm just hoping EU ranked is going to level up. When all these Koreans get here and they start doing, I won't be against Junkrat for 10 hours a day. I'm going to be a happy man.
What you'll get is you'll just get these like pockets, right, outside scrim time where it's actually just
it's going to be so good. There'll be like 2 or 3 hours where I can just queue rank and just get really good games. I'll be like, yes, this is all I dreamed of.
And then one of the other changes that happened in OWCS, which is one, personally, I don't really know what to make of it. What they've done is they've reduced the map pool, so there's less maps overall. And in the same way they've combined Push and Clash, as they often have done, Push and Clash are still combined, but they've also combined Hybrid and Flashpoint.
Oh.
So there's now 4 total modes / groups of modes.
So meaning Control, Escort, then Push, Clash, Hybrid, Flashpoint.
Yeah, and then map 5, if you get to map 5, will be same as that would happen at best of 7, where you can pick from any of the maps not already played again. So how do you? I don't know exactly how this will impact. I don't know if you have any sort of takes on who this will benefit, or if it will benefit anyone, or if it's just different.
Well, I'm looking at the map pool now. There's no Ilios, so Chris will be happy.
Well, he's got a dive team now. He's good.
The second he gets a dive team, Ilios without the pool.
Unluckiest man alive, unfortunately. Can't win.
No Jib as well.
Yeah.
Just can't win.
The world is out to get him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I don't know what else they can really do other than group the maps together like that. There's so many different map types now. It's kind of weird that there's 2 Flashpoint maps in the game, and they're going to have to pick one of them. I kind of like there being like
Suravasa only.
Just Suravasa.
Yeah.
I kind of liked there being the option of Suravasa and New Junk City because they were slightly different. Suravasa a bit more diveable.
It's weird now it's combined with like the hybrids, right? So it's like a...
Yeah, it might be a really nice way to skip some maps.
Block like a Blizzard world by playing Flashpoint or something type thing.
Yeah, like if the escorts... Oh no, escorts is its own separate category, isn't it? Just push Clash that isn't... Say you're just bad at Clash, you can just avoid Clash completely.
Yeah. So it's like I don't quite know how it will translate into reality of how we go through a series and how people ban. But I guess in theory,
interesting.
Yeah, it's
we'll see when we get round to playing it.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did have another question because obviously Twisted Minds also have a long history competing in the Saudi E-League. Is this roster, because obviously currently only 2 Saudi players, and it still plans to have Saudi E-League responsibilities tied in with OWCS this year?
I think so, yeah.
So he'll be making the trip.
I think I'll be playing in Saudi E-Leagues, but yeah, I don't know what more I can say on that.
Yeah, well, I guess
I don't know all the plans.
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware, right, for Twisted Minds, I am here right at the bottom, and I just play the game. You've got everyone else here at the top who does all the planning, and they sort everything out for me. They tell me where to be. They tell me when to go there, and I will just show up.
Turn up, lock a hero.
I'm going to play some Overwatch. I think this year, I want to go really hard because I really want to beat TU. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I guess I have quite a vendetta against them.
A vendetta? Why? Yeah. Because they're like what looked like the strongest team on paper as the rivals, or
yeah, because and also Chris went there.
Chris, you want the revenge?
Yeah, get a bit of revenge. It'd be fun to beat Chris.
Well, I think that's the way it's sort of shaping up. I think from a lot of people talk you see on Reddit and social media that so far you and TU are the top 2 rosters. How do you feel? I know not all the rosters have been announced, but in terms of...
I was just about to say, I don't know which ones have been announced.
But I guess without saying any names, the overall power level of EMEA...
Oh, it's gone up by miles, for sure.
Like, how many teams would we expect? We talk about, like, 2 land spots. Realistically, how many teams do you think have a good shot at that spot or a decent shot at that spot?
4. I think there's 4.
Yeah?
4's maybe optimistic for one of them, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Probably more like 3, but
but I think there's a closeness that maybe won't be there in say North America or something, where we might see more of a
there's always the wild card because there are a lot of players left out of these 4 teams because there are so many Korean imports coming. But there's a lot of European talent that hasn't been signed to one of the top teams. So if they all band together, they can make a lesser or a smaller org, say something like Peps. Like what Peps did last year, right?
Yeah.
Where they got the Esports World Cup slot. And they weren't meant to be a top 3 team in Europe, but they've got all the remainder players and built themselves a really solid roster. So I think at the moment there's 4 teams of good players, and there's still lots of leftovers. Like you could make 5 or 6 maybe really competitive teams. It won't just be us bullying Wasp Ono for the 1000th time.
Well, that's like Well, one thing that is nice about a lot of the changes is because now we're in a regular season, you'll have this top 8. So maybe like the 7th or 8th team might still just be a little bit tier breaking behind.
The 7th and 8th might struggle. You might start to run out of players then. But I think in terms of top 6, it's going to be like anyone can win on a good day.
On the day, yeah. On the day, on the right meta, exactly. So all of a sudden, it might mean like every week in EMEA, when there's 3 days of games, there's actually a top match every weekend, basically, without fail, if not multiple.
I think there'll be a lot of those situations. And with metas like this, like it can be so swinging because it's so reliant on team play. You can have the most mechanically skilled roster. You can have, but say Tracer's not good and he can't 1v5 you.
There's hero bans and stuff as well, right? There's so many things.
Yeah, exactly.
That can,
there's so many things that can throw you off that you'll see so many upsets that even the 7th, 8th place team, like they have a proper chance. And especially with the amount of fucking imports that there are.
Well, yeah. Well, then all of a sudden as well, if like the 7th, 8th team start to cause upsets or something, then you see crazy situations where one of these sort of top teams is playing like promotion relegation or something crazy.
Yeah,
exactly. One of the stages or something like it's like
and that's where like I don't know how the rules work with roster swaps, because if one of the partner teams like
they're allowed to be relegated,
they can get knocked out.
Yeah, it's because I don't know. Yeah, because it's theoretically possible. I think the presumption is that it'd never happen. But in EMEA, it might happen. It could happen. It's like more possible in EMEA than I think it is in any other region, you know?
Yeah, I think NA might be a bit more top heavy because like they've got to pay a lot more money to import people.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, we should probably have to pay the same amount of money. We just have Saudi orgs. So.
Yeah, when there's there'll be a little K-Town in Riyadh this year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Be interesting.
And then last thing I want to ask you is obviously new organization, new team, few familiar faces. Is there anything you want to say to the fans of Twisted Minds this upcoming season?
No, nothing much. We're just going to win this year. That's all.
Heard that
looking
one
for a good year. Hey, we won on SSG. We count that as a win.
This time you have Quartz as well, so that'll help.
Yeah, exactly. I think personally, I'm aiming for the same as last year or better.
Yeah. Would you,
in terms of performance,
personally, would you see yourselves as favourites in the region?
I'd say it's like a 50-50 toss up between us and TU.
Yeah. That's what they're saying as well. So we'll have to figure it out in the server, that one. But
there's going to be some heated scrims coming up over the next couple of weeks, and then you'll get some more interviews and some people being really confident.
Yeah, can't wait to hear
which side
that.
It's going to be. I hope it's my side, but one of us is going to be really confident.
Going to hear from opposite sides that both sides have won 80% of the scrims against the other one. It's like somebody's cooking the books in the middle here, but
yeah.
But thank you very much, Daniel. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me. And of course, good luck. We'll see you kick it all off. You guys don't start until obviously the 31st because you get to skip the Swiss. But we'll see you there.
I didn't know that until a few days ago. I'm finding out new things by minutes. It's incredible.
You think this video's for the viewers? It's mainly for you, Daniel. I'm just here to update you on all the changes.
I'm just a happy little client. I just wake up and I just play Overwatch, right? I'm living a simple life.
Focus on the important thing. Just be good at the game. Everything else will fall into place.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.